and the men would be beating during class. That way they would not fall asleep. So I know you're not going to fall asleep during my class. Okay, so tonight I'm going to be speaking on 4 verses of Bhagavad Gita that go together. There's many sets of verses in Bhagavad Gita that just flow together. Like in the 2nd chapter, there's those verses, while contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment. And then in chapter 12, also says, if you can't do bhakti yoga, then work for me. If you can't work for me. So there's these sets of verses that are really nice. So these verses are some of my favorite, actually, because everyone's interested in the future. Now, Lalita, if you would have made a nice ad that said, special fortune teller, palm reader, coming to the Krishna Cove and is going to tell everyone's future. There'll be a line out to First Avenue because everyone's interested in that. Actually, the lady that donated the land next door, Joy, she has a shop in New Orleans in the French Quarter. So the bottom of the shop is all jewels and geodes and different things like that. The 3rd floor is all her storage, and the 2nd floor is full of tarot card readers, soothsayers, fortune tellers. And she said, I make more money from that than I do from selling jewels and gems, because it's interesting. Everyone wants to know what the future is. A while ago, maybe in the 90s, maybe in the late 80s, there was a devotee that from England, and so he wrote a book on past life regressions. And he interviewed devotees, and he especially interviewed different senior devotees, sannyasis. I think he was trying to sell his book, so he figured if he put those names in there, that his book would be selling. So somehow or other, they were all the Maharaj of Jaipur, or the Maharani of Buccaneer, or the some prime minister of Udaipur. No one was like a beady walla or a fixing the shoe or anything. They were all like great saints and sages. Of course, devotees that was probably true. But Prabhupada explains that the science now in this age is pretty much lost, even with astrology or any kind of thing that was very potent at the time. Isn't as potent. It's like also fire sacrifices. Like we do wonderful fire sacrifices, but it's not like we could put Sufi in the fire sacrifice and out came a sweet Sufi, like they did with the horses or with different things. We don't have that kind of power. He's all sweet and cuddly. Maybe we should try that. So we're going to speak from Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 15. See, I practically have a book here. Like we're not all like Shruti Dar, like Kirtaneshwar. Right. There's different ways you can do it. Like Tamal Hari has great setup. He's got these amazing slides, and then you can like talk as you go through the slides. Or as we'll be hearing from Judge Jagadish, he has it like all like nice. I can't even put it on my computer because I don't even know how. So
whenever I tell others down, you talk. When she goes, I can cook 5 preps at once. You could get a nice talk.
I could probably cook 10 actually. But Judge Jagadish, will be hearing from him next Sunday. So he has it all nicely on his computer, and so he, just speaks it. So anyway, I have to practically read mine. So this is verse 8 in chapter 15. The living entity in the material world creates as different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aroma. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So the living entity has minute independence because we're free to choose, and we're always choosing, right? We're choosing whether to come here tonight, what to wear tonight, what our profession is, what we're going to do tomorrow, what we're going to do next week. It's natural. We plan ahead, but we think that we're the controller if we do that. But sadly, we're not. But we don't realize that all the time, that we're actually not independent, but we think we are. But we're always stuck in the three modes of material nature. We think that we can do everything, and therefore this is such a godless civilization, because people don't realize that everything we do, even blinking our eyes, there's a demigod in charge of that. There's 33 million demigods, and they're all controlling everything, but it's running so smoothly, it's running so easily, that people think that there's no God in charge. I'm actually in charge. And just like anything in the material world, any kind of machine or any kind of, we go up an escalator or like a sliding door, we don't even think about it. But behind all that is a group of engineers, planners, draftsmen, manufacturers, maintenance people, and they're making sure that it all goes on. So that is like Krishna and the demigods, that they're actually controlling everything. But because they're controlling it so nicely, we're thinking that there's no controller there, that I'm in control. Has anyone heard of, I'm sure you have, manifest destiny? So actually that was coined in 1845. And that was said about the pioneers and the people that came, and they were on the East Coast, and gradually they moved along and start usurping every bit of property, and no matter who got in their way. So they, took it from the Indians, they took it from the Mexicans, they took it anywhere they can get it. And they actually had a philosophy that God ordained this, that this is the destiny of the Americans, just to take. They had, let's see, what was it? They was destined by God to be the chosen people. Where have we heard that before? The chosen people, to occupy, colonize, and claim dominion. We also have heard that before. Over a piece of land. It was our divine right. Yeah. So, and also in the 80s, it kind of came back in the 80s and became very popular. And there was many people that professed this. There was one in San Diego, and then she stood there and handed out bumper stickers that said, prosperity is your divine right. So, the idea of, visualizing, even devotees that on their fridge, they would put like a slim figure or a fancy car or whatever it was. And they felt that if they, meditated on it and pursued it in some way, at least mentally, that they would also hit that destiny. We could imagine, okay, I need a new, Maserati or Mercedes or something, but, we end up with a Hyundai with 200,000 miles and, crushed bumper sticker, bumper on the car. So, that's not something new. And some people do get those things, but the majority of the people don't. You don't think that the bums, the homeless folks on First Avenue are thinking that, I also want something. Maybe their thoughts and their desires aren't quite as grand. They just want, a little place to take rest, or they want a little food. Next door, we have, First Avenue is like the freeway, for the homies to walk by. And so we have a drip system there, which is, it comes out. And so now we've been noticing that they must be coming in, taking off the top of the drip so they can take a little shower, because there's no hose or anything out there. People are onto that. So they take the turner off there. So they're, but anyway, people are desperate, and no one wants to be desperate. They're thinking, they're imagining they have a house, imagining they have nice food, they're imagining, but they don't get it. So why don't they get it? Because it's not their karma. So, and as the verse is saying, that just as the air carries aroma, we go from one body to another, and quit that body, then take another body. And how is that happening? It's happening because of our karma, because of our activities in our previous life. Let's just see here what else we got. Prabhupada said in the purport, the individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activity are the background of his next body. So what is that body? That's the subtle body that we're taking with us. So the mind, the intelligence, and ego. So that comes along with us. We drag that along, one body after another. And and what is that? That's our false identity of I am this body, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, all these things. And, it's like, we have like a bank account, like we all generally, many devotees have a bank account. So, you can spend from that bank account, but you can only spend what you put in. Otherwise, there's a draft, and Padma Rukmini knows about that. We can, from paying our bills, if we're paying our bills and there's no money to pay them, then that's very bad. So this is like people's karma. They do some good activity, their pious activity from a past life, and they're rewarded in this life. So what is the reward? The reward is being born in a rich family, a rich country, having nice bodily features, having intelligence, having reputation. So these are sought by everyone. And putting a picture on your fridge of a movie star and thinking I want to become like that certainly does not guarantee that that's going to happen, because it takes a lot more than that, and it's not just this lifetime, it's the last lifetime and the lifetime before and the lifetime before. The next verse is, the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So here Prabhupada's talking about that the consciousness is originally pure. We're all pure Krishna conscious souls, but coming in contact in the material world, just like water comes in contact with mud, or you can dye water. I'm sure in experiments in science class, you would do different things with water and it would change the water, change the color of the water. So, what do we do in our spare time? What are we watching? What are we talking about? What are we seeing? What are we looking at? So this all affects our consciousness. And it's very important. People don't even think about that, what they're doing and what they're, what are you eating? Are you eating dead bodies? Are you eating nice Krishna prasadam, or even in the mode of goodness? Are you eating, nice vegetables and fruits? What are you hearing? Are you hearing devotional music, or at least some kind of, uplifting music? Are you listening to rap music? Are you listening to degraded music? Same thing, what are you watching? We're watching our phone, we're watching the TV, we're streaming something. So people don't realize what an effect that has on our consciousness. As Vaishasika would famously say, garbage in, garbage out. So people speak what they're hearing, what they're associating with. So what do people talk about? They talk about politics, they talk about the weather, they talk about, what the latest, show is, gossip. When it states that when devotees meet, they say, how is your sadhana? How is your chanting going? How is your reading? What have you been reading lately? And you approach someone, a manager, a kshatriya, then they say, how's your temple doing? How's the finances coming? How's the subjects? Are they all happy? And then with Vaishyas, then it's like, how's the cows giving good milk? Are they kicking? Are the how's the crops growing? And for a Sudra, you meet them and you say, how are you? Because they're the body. They think they're the body. They act on the body. So we say, how are you? So how do people greet each other? Yeah, how are you? Of course, but this is, people don't think about this. So, we have to educate them. So if our consciousness is adulterated by some type of material activity, then in your next life, you get a corresponding body. And it's not necessarily human. You could get a cat or a dog. You see the animals, it says that the Bhagavad Gita says you have a certain set of senses grouped about the mind. So you take a dog. What does he have? He has that big snout. And what is that for? That is for acute smelling. Yeah, you see dogs are always sniffing. Or like a fish has a big, like when they get that plankton on the bottom of the ocean, that big mouth. And how do we catch a fish? What does a fisherman do? He just takes a little illusion or a little worm on a hook, and they can't help themselves. They have to go after it. So, if our mentality is simply eating, if it's sniffing around, if it's doing these things, then it's not even a punishment. It's not like God is going to condemn you to be a dog. It's our desire. He wants us to be happy. So if that's what we want to do, then that's the kind of body we're going to get. Prabhupada used to talk a lot about hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. You find it all throughout. So in London one time, he was given a lecture and he was speaking about this. And one man stood up very proudly and said, "What's wrong with being a dog?" And then Prabhupada said, "You have my blessing." So, some people say, I'd like to be a cat, but you're not necessarily going to be a cat that, has a nice big pillow and just sits at home all day while the family goes out and works. You could be like actually, there's hardly any cats in India. Did you notice that?
Didn't notice that.
Yeah.
There's a few that can around.
Yeah, because they just get tormented and
Killed by everything.
They get killed by everything. But I heard that they were bitter tasting, so actually the dogs don't eat them. They just kill them and they just leave them aside. So, we certainly don't want to do that. Or a bird. Oh, I'd like to fly. But you ever see a bird? They're always up looking over their shoulder. They're always scared. We had a baby hawk that got into our cage because that's been Joe's project for the last 2 years, and he still hasn't finished it. So there's a big hole at the top. I was trying to figure out, how did this hawk get in here? Hawk was going back and forth, and the birds were freaking out. They were so scared. And actually, Ajitesh came in with a towel, and he said, "Oh, they get tired after a while." And he just let them get tired, and then he just took a towel and grabbed them, and he was able to. So, but even if we take birth on a nice planet, even what to speak of a heavenly planet, even if we have these benedictions, of wealth, of beauty, of strength, it's still the material world. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, "Brahmana bhuvana loka purna arvitinarjuna mamu petitakunteya purna janma navijate." So from the highest planet, which is Indra Loka or, the material world, down to the lowest, Patala Loka, they're all places of misery where repeated birth and death take place. But one who is Krishna conscious, then one does not have to take birth again. And that is our goal. There was this quote here. It's actually by Tony Robbins. "In the moment of decision, your destiny is formed." But he was using it in a different way, like that we have a decision and then we're going to get it. That's not it. We make a decision and we do something, like we commit a sinful activity, then our destiny is formed. Okay, we have to suffer for that in the future. That's for sure. This is another nice quote. It actually has nothing to do with the talk, but Prabhupada told this to Giriraj Swami. "Good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment." I just thought that was really cute. Okay, the next verse that goes with this, "The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all of this." Okay, so now we're going from the problem to the solution. So this understanding actually comes from a great amount of knowledge. So where do we get such knowledge? From the Holy Scriptures, from our Guru, from the enlightened souls. In Sanskrit, the word is jnana chakshu, that we see through the eyes of the Scripture. We don't see through our mundane eyes, but we see through the eyes of the Scripture and from a bona fide spiritual master. Just like before we speak, generally we say the prayer, Alma Jnana Timurandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Amritanena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, that I was born in the darkness of ignorance with my eyes closed shut. My spiritual master forced open my eyes with the torch of knowledge. So therefore you have to offer your respectful obeisances unto him and to all the disciplic succession and all the devotees that have helped us in our spiritual life. Prabhupada says so elegantly in the purport, one who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances, and he is living under certain circumstances, and he is enjoying under certain circumstances, under the spell of material nature. So he's saying he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment, because persons are fooled. They're fooled by lust and desire, and they lose all power to understand what's happening. And then they, get a lower body. When I was, so interesting because, you're trained at a young age to commit sinful activity and accept it as normal. Everyone has a big Thanksgiving tradition, usually in the West. So we would go to my aunt's house, and from my age of like 8, they would all have a big glass of wine, and the kids could drink the wine. And I remember it was Mogan David wine, and it was terrible, and I hated it. But everyone drank it, and you're expected to drink it, even if you're only a little kid. So there I was, drinking it, but I don't know if it was from that or whatever. But when I became a little older, like in high school, and then you go out with your friends, and you were expected to drink, and I just did not have a taste for it. So what I would do is I would purposely not drink anything, and then I would bring with me out these old salty pretzels, and I would have to eat the pretzels in order for me to drink, because it was so unattractive. But so I had to force myself to do that. That was like crazy. It's like a rite of passage or something. And then later, then you might develop a taste for it. But, then if I would drink, then I would immediately fall asleep. Even if I wouldn't drink, I'd fall asleep.
I'd fall asleep anyways.
I'd fall asleep. I was made to be a devotee because no one even wanted to take me out on a date, because they knew that at about 9 o'clock. And then I thought, man, I'm going to be really unpopular here. I better do something. So then I started taking speed, and then I'd stay up, till maybe 10 o'clock. So anyway, okay, the next verse. The endeavoring transcendentalists who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. So this verse is saying that the endeavoring transcendentalists, that we don't have to be pure, we could just be endeavoring and we get Krishna's mercy. Just like I used to drive up to Phoenix a lot every weekend, and during the summer, then there'd be monsoons, and sometimes the monsoons would come down so hard, and it would be like almost blinding. It would be so foggy and rainy, and I'd have to take shelter. I'd have to go under under one of those underpasses and stay for a while until I could see. But even when it wasn't completely clear, it was like a little clear, then I can handle this. I can go on and drive the rest of the way. So that's kind of our consciousness, that even if it's not completely clear, we can see enough to follow in the footsteps of great devotees. We can take to the order of the spiritual master. We can read special scriptures. So we don't have to be 100% pure. We just have to be on the path and a sincere desire to pursue that path. Another nice verse. Bahunam janmanam ante jnananam prapadyate vasudev sarvamati sa mahatma sudurlabha. That after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be cause of all causes, and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So we want to be that rare person we want to be that person who wants to get out of the material world. There's so many traps in the material world. And, even as devotees, we find ourselves getting into a trap, such as, watching your phone or getting into gossip or getting into some fault finding. Somehow there's a taste there because our consciousness isn't purified. So, that's why like soap operas are so popular and novels are so popular, because people like that. They just, the way even Mahabharata, it said it's written for the disintelligent, because it's all about intrigue, it's all about deception, it's all about heroic activities, it's about love affairs. So these things are very attractive. So what do? We have to dovetail it to Krishna consciousness. We have to read about the pastimes of Krishna. There's a devotee, Gopal Bhatta, and he was very influential for many, many years in our movement. He actually helped orchestrated that whole court case, how to get out of it, what to do, and he helped the GBC a lot. Anyway, he sent me these 3 books that he helped print from Shivaram Swami. And he goes, I want you to read these books. Luckily, I was thinking, oh man, I saw one of Shivaram Swami's books and it was like this thick. Luckily, these were kind of thin. But they're all about Raganuga Bhakti. And I was thinking, I still think on my body and, talking about Raganuga Bhakti. But then I was remembering when I was a young devotee that which really were preached to that, you should find a resident of Vrindavan, a pure devotee of Krishna and emulate them. And think about them and Mother Yashoda, you find someone, one of the gopis. And I told him, I said, boy, my mind is so far away from that. And actually, I'm appreciating that, I'm reading this book because it kind of sets me back into reality, what we actually have to do. Sometimes, especially in management, you just get like, one thing after another. And so really to concentrate on really the goal of life. But ultimately, that's what we all have to do. We have to do that. And how do you do that? So you associate with like-minded people. You don't associate with people that are, critical or fault-finding. You try to find like the swan, that's drinking the nectar and separating that. We have to get that good association. We have to be encouraged, and we have to encourage others through our own speech, through our activities, through our habits. And just like, if you want to be a good businessman, you join the Chamber of Commerce. We had someone here that helped us join the Chamber of Commerce, where we were thinking that was going to help us somehow or other with Govindas, but we found out that all they wanted was more money from us. So we probably won't join with that again. But we understand, you want to be a good golfer, you join the country club, or if you want to give up something, then you join like AA, and you associate with other people that want to give up that stuff. So the same way with devotees, if you want to lead a pure life, you don't hang out with, people that, eat, drink, and be merry. You want to hang out with devotees. You want to go to devotee programs. You want to dovetail any kind of activity that you have and become purified in that association. It's like our master craftsman, Joe. You wouldn't know it by looking at him, but he's an avid coin collector. And he goes to all the coin shows. Every week he's at a new coin show. And he has, if you go in his room, which I don't recommend anyone going in, but sometimes I have to. I take a clothespin and put it on, and then I go in his room, and then I shower after I come out. But his whole wall is decorated with beautiful frames of coins.
Hand-built frames.
He shines the coins, he puts them in there. And then his daughter came last year for a visit, and obviously she also is a coin collector, so she took all his coins. So now you go in there, he's got a secret compartment. You open it, and all the coins are back in their beautiful frames, but they're hidden. And he has to show it to me every time I go over there, like I forgot that they were there. And so, he's like coins, he's into coins. So he goes to coin shows, and they talk coin, they talk about the value and all these things. So the same way we associate with devotees, we have to talk about the value of Krishna consciousness and how it's so important. Another thing, we want to make a pledge. A vow is kind of heavy. No one wants to hear that word. I'm taking a vow. It's like scary. It's called vrat. Like someone takes an Ekadashi vrat. We had a devotee also here. He took a vrat that he would have 12 fire sacrifice. He had one every month. And he was like, this is my vrat. I have to do it. So we have to take a vrat. Or we could say a promise. That's like kind of gentle, a promise. A promise used to be more potent than it is now. People would say, my word is as good as the Vedas, or, my word is as good as gold. But now people promise and they, don't care about it. But we want to be true to our word. We make a promise to, okay, I'm going to chant 1 round, or I'm going to, if we're way above that, then I'm going to promise I'm going to read, an hour a day. I'm going to read a chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to do these things. And these things are powerful if we can make a vow, make a promise to do that. And we want to, we want to take association and we want to give association. So in order to give association, we can't just always be, wanting association. We also have to become that association for others. Just like it's explained that it's important to be well-rounded. Then you have someone that you go to, someone you look up to, someone that gives you advice. You have someone that you exchange your realizations with and questions with, and then you have others that you encourage and help bring up. So this gives a very well-rounded, and this whole combo will put us on the clear path to bhakti yoga. We just add these things, and then the unwanted things will gradually go away. We don't have to be fretting too much about giving up these things, because they'll naturally become pale and tasteless after everyone's leaving. Now I must be really keeping everyone on the tip of their seat here. Oh, okay, that's all right. And what's almost the end. So we just have to add Krishna, and miracles happen. I mean, I see miracles all the time. Of course, I'm waiting for another big miracle. That hasn't happened yet, but it's going to give it a little more time next door. But we're never the loser in Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness is so blissful that even a drop of it is beneficial. What to speak of, a cup or a gallon. I speak in those terms because I'm a cook, so I speak in terms of cups, tablespoons, gallons, and then it makes our lives, very happy and very blissful. So that's about it. Does anyone have any comments or wanting to add to this at all? My dear Prabhus?
I wanted to express my gratitude for teaching tonight. I think you're such an exceptional teacher and you use such relevant, practical examples. So I just feel a bit bereft that we don't have you teach more.
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to cook for the restaurant, I'll have more time. I can. Thank you.
Great talk, Sandamini, for helping us today with your knowledge. My question is, why are these your favorite verses?
Well, not favorite, but I like those verses because they're so practical as far as, just what they say. Because like I said, everyone's interested in the future and what the future is going to bring in their next life and what they're going to do. And so these just very clearly say that, whatever you do now is setting the pace for the future. So if you really and truly want a good life and you want to, then you live accordingly. And for devotees, that means going back to Godhead. So it just helps me remember, oh yeah, just like we go through a stinky place and you feel contaminated, you go to a rose garden, so the air carries aroma just like our consciousness. And if we want that good consciousness, then we have to stay in good association. And I just like those like sets of verses, because sometimes, a lot of times in the Bhagavad Gita, it seems, not that it skips around, but so I like verses that are like several in a group, like a sequel. And then you can like study those verses. And for me, I get a lot out of that instead of just, one verse. It just goes a little deeper. like those verses, like it's just so, it gives such a vision. While contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment. Okay, then you're attached. And from attached, lust develops. And you can see yourself. And then once you get lusty and you can't have it, then anger arises. And from anger, when you get angry, then you just get bewildered because, you get, even if it's like if you're righteously angry, it's still like a contaminates. So then it's bewildering. And when intelligence is bewildered, then you fall down. It's so explicit. So I like those verses that are very explicit and like tells a story. Did you have?
I didn't have a question. I just had a comment. But, I was on the way home from work. I pulled up the live stream in the car, and so I did hear like the first half. It was really resonating with me. So I just kept going home.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was thinking that maybe Gopinath can paint some cardboard figures like they do at the stadium to, put more. So it looks like an audience is full to encourage the speaker. We just pull them out, when the attendance is low. But thank you. Okay, Chris, I know you're dying to ask something.
Well, I was thinking of commenting that it's the night before the new moon,
Mhm.
and so it's kind of a low energy time in the cycle. So maybe that's why it's not really
Oh. Oh yeah.
'Cause
No, I was just
they're in the mode of ignorance at home,
okay.
Getting ready for the next cycle.
Yeah. Well, next month, because I was just doing the calendar for the newsletter, we have 2 full moons next month. So maybe the attendance will be better in May.
Just speaking about the future, you have some thoughts on the movement going forward? We're in this time where we're like seeing souls leave us and what that means for the future. Are you hopeful or are you trepidatious about how society will go on as these great souls leave us?
Yeah. No, there's always hope. And as we look back, somehow Prabhupada left us and we're going on. So this is the natural cycle. So that's why we have to be serious, the younger devotees, the devotees that are here, because we have to take up that baton and we have to move forward. This movement was sanctioned by Lord Chaitanya, so it'll definitely go on. There's no question of that. We're going to miss these souls, and but it's inevitable. When you're in your 80s, you kind of think, well, pretty soon I'm going to be going. But I'm really impressed with so many of the younger devotees and their attachment to Krishna consciousness, their attachment to Prabhupada, their attachment to, wanting the movement to go on, their seriousness of taking classes and becoming, taking up responsibility. So there's no question it'll go on. When I think about the devotees in the beginning, how new devotees, we're talking about Charu today, and how he was just a devotee 6 months and he became president of the Auckland Temple in Australia. And Prabhupada came, and instead of just having a little room like that, he rented a huge hall with seating of 500, and he got the place packed. And he set up a whole display selling stuff from India. It's like, where did he get that stuff? At that time, no one had even gone to India. I don't know where he even got it. And so, you see these devotees and they had nothing. They had a struggle to pay the rent when the rent was $100, but somehow or other, what were they saying? We're just reading today that Giriraj Swami, he'd be had Back to God had magazines in one hand to distribute them, and in the other hand, he had a conch shell. So he'd give a magazine and then put the conch shell out, and he'd get a quarter. So he would, do, whatever, $5 a day. And they're like, wow, you did $5. Wow, that's great. So very humble beginnings. But, the movement just kept growing. And the devotees weren't seasoned devotees. They were all young devotees. They were all in their 20s. But, they did so many amazing things. So the same way, there's young devotees and they're also, it's different. The dynamics are different, but, they're doing nice preaching. They're, being innovative, and they're, taking, instruction, and, we all have to be that example for others. So, I mean, we have a bright future. There's no question about it. And it'll just get bigger and better. Not that there won't be trials and tribulations, that's a given, but, the movement is in good hands. And, the little bit of friction. Who was saying we're just reading, or someone was giving a class, how the, ocean on the top is rough, but you go deep. So, there's maybe some friction with this and that, because, we're all humans, we're all, we're going to have little problems here and there, but the essence of the devotees is very, very deep. Yes, Prabhu.
So some people are, like when they're really young, they get like abused or like mistreated, and they have all these traumas and like resentments. And it seems like karma kind of explains that. It's like, okay, I did some bad actions in the past, and now I'm facing those reactions now. So I'm wondering, like, what's like the appropriate way to resolve those traumas? You just like say, okay, this is just the result of something I did. I need to move past it, or like, how do you move past traumas that are?
Yeah, well, that's a little out of my league, but many devotees found that, counseling and those kind of things, I mean, not necessarily non-devotee counselor, but now, our movement is full of so many qualified, lawyers and doctors and counselors. And so, we can find those resources, but actually we have a counselor right here amongst us, Jai Jagadish. This is a free, unpaid commercial.
Is that the right understanding? So like, sometimes you talk to people and they talk about how they're like abused and they have these traumas. Like, is it fair to say that's because of your past karma you did these?
Yeah, you don't want to say that. That's very harsh.
Right.
We have to be compassionate, and it's like, well, buddy, what do you expect? You did that to someone else. Of course you're going to get it.
Right.
We don't say that. And, everyone's karma is very unique and very individual. So, I mean, we can kind of understand generally, but we can't understand really specifically. And we have to be very compassionate to people that are suffering, because people won't open up, or they won't feel protected and sheltered if we, judge them, or, treat them in some very odd and strange way because of that. So we just have to try to be, friendly. And I mean, we can all swap stories. I mean, there's no question of that. Yeah, your father did that. Well, listen to what my father did, or, we could kind of go there with them a little bit. But, it's unfortunate. I mean, this material world is a hellish place. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta said there's no place for a gentle man or a gentle woman in this material world, because, you're either cheated or you're cheating someone else. Those are the two things that we can expect in the material world. So, it's like someone's in jail and they complain, man, I got bars on here. I don't have my freedom. I only have a hard thing to sleep on, of course, because you did certain activities to put yourself in that situation. So, we're here in the material. We chose to come in the material world. So, it's not a pleasant place. So we just have to make the best
so
use.
fascinating to learn that once you heal, you realize that terrible thing you went through actually gave you some sort of weird superpower. Or is it like, would you agree? Like it's
You get more tolerant to like some virtue.
like because I went through that, I can do this amazing thing for other people and myself. And it's like, I think that's the right way. We get this some help when someone's hurting in the moment.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, our suffering, if we can get through it, then obviously, not obviously, but, it makes us stronger. It definitely, and then we can be compassionate to other people in that same words before you might not have been. You might have said, well, that's your tough luck. But, when you go through it yourself, then you're able to, to help others, and also be very strong. Like to say, when you break a bone and then it heals and it becomes stronger. So,
Like the Buddha, did he have a really rough past? Did he go through all the harshest things to have all that compassion? Did he have to have so many lifetimes of suffering to get to that point?
well, I'm not expert on Buddha, but I know that he was raised as a prince, and the father didn't want him to go out and see any suffering. He wanted to try to protect him. But then he saw a cremation. He was like, what's that, a dead body? And what's this? And then he was able to see these things. So he said, I'm not going to stay behind these anymore. This is an illusion. This is real, what's out here.
Or
And
even
then
Prabhupada, did he share his past lives that he used to say he went through all the muck?
No, he didn't talk much. He was very humble and didn't, he would give some hints.
Doctor. And he said once he was a doctor.
Yeah, and then
Someone told him he was a doctor. He was like,
yeah, and then something happened with the patient, and then he had into some suffering or something. In the scriptures, they have, different examples of people. Okay. There's a few more preps tonight, so I think that's what's. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, how you said you don't have to be pure, but you have to have the endeavor you want to have Krishna?
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah, because really to become percent purified that sometimes we read about, it can almost be intimidating because it's like, whoa, I'm so far from there. But just being on the path, just like you can't criticize someone that's in the shower. Oh, you're dirty. No, because you're utilizing your time, your strength, your intelligence. You're in the shower becoming clean. So, another verse in Bhagavad Gita says, even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So what's that dangerous type of fear? Taking a lower body, taking an animal body. So just by endeavoring in Krishna consciousness through what we're doing, hearing and chanting, doing service, then we become purified. And that process is purifying, and it leads us to the ultimate goal. So we don't have to be like, okay, I have to be pure. I can't practice, or I can't get the full result of Krishna consciousness because I'm not so pure yet. So just as we are doing our regular activities, then that's getting us closer. Every time we clap our hand in kirtan, every mantra we chant, every little service we do, it's. Can you get me just a
Yeah, we're gonna get your
tiny thing? We're making advancement, and so we should be satisfied. On one hand, that we're making advancement, but we shouldn't be so satisfied that we don't want to try harder, or we don't, want to reach the ultimate goal. So, we want it's like a mixture, because we don't want to get depressed or get down on ourselves. We want to endeavor steadily. That's why the key to spiritual life is regulation, because then you can kind of see, okay, every day I'm getting up at this time, every day I'm chanting this many rounds, and then all of a sudden you stop that. Okay, you see, okay, here's a problem here. And by doing that and steadily, then one can, mark their advancement, and one can feel that advancement from your interactions with others, from, these different qualities of lust, anger, and greed. They decrease, they go down, the fire is going out gradually. But when we think of the other ages where you'd have to meditate for 20,000 years, 10,000 years, you have to do fire sacrifices that are, take years to do. This is like nothing. We do a little japa and kirtan or eating prasadam, and we can get the same result, because at Kali Yuga you get that special mercy. So really it's they say demigods are waiting in line to take birth in this planet at this time, because Lord Chaitanya's mercy is right there. And Lord Chaitanya just appeared, and the Shaktavesha avatar was just here. So this is the great place and time to make a lot of advancement. even though we don't, because we're with it with ourselves every day, we don't think we're making advancement, but we're definitely making advancement. Just like with a kid. Yeah, okay, thank you. You know, you don't see a kid for a while, and you're like, oh, they're so big. You know, or someone's getting like, oh, you're so big. So, you know, when you're with yourself every day, you don't appreciate and realize that. But we know, because we see through the eyes of the scripture, that if one has a regulated spiritual life, you're making advancement. So even though, you know, the goal of, you know, 100% pure and no material desire, you know, that isn't achieved yet, but it's coming.
Thank you. Sorry.
Did you have a hand in the preparations as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
First, now I made the breadsticks, the hummus, the drink. I myself made the pasta. And the meat was
You don't
made
need it,
by
right?
Tayashi Baby. What do you think about this, Nana?
What?
Say this here.
I haven't tried it yet.
Say hi to all the online people.
Hare Krishna. Bon appetit.